First performer is a horse packer, wrangler, horse trainer, dog breeder, and many other things. He's received awards like the Lifetime Achievement Award in Cowboy Poetry. I mean, think about that for a minute. That's not one that you get to win by being an overnight sensation. Will Rogers Cowboy Award, Cowboy Poet of the Year. He'll be on the big stage tonight for our Nevada night concert from the 2 Cent Ranch in Palomino Valley. Please welcome Mr. Larry Maurice.
That's the musical portion of the show. It's about as good as it gets in this price range. So, well, good afternoon. Welcome. Good, welcome. This is kind of nice. It's always nice to start off the festival on Friday afternoons. You know, things are a little quiet. The weather's great. Everybody's here. Some of us are looking like, what am I doing here? Have nothing else to do today. How many people in this room right now have never been victimized by cowboy poetry? Oh, there's some fresh meat in the back right there. There you go. So she dragged you here, kicking you, and you have no idea what's going on, do you? You go, cowboy poetry, it's like an oxymoron, isn't it? Yeah. You've always wanted to come. Well, thank you very much for being here. Without you, there's no me. Okay. We always say cowboy poetry is kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? You know what oxymoron is? That's two words that contradict each other. Jumbo shrimp. Military intelligence. I heard a good one the other day. Mobile home estate. I don't like that. We can get there. So anyway, it's cowboy poetry's been around for a long, long time, and it goes back to oh gosh, farther in this country. Listen, my children, you shall hear the midnight ride of Paul Revere in the 18th of April. So, cowboy poetry is rhyming poetry. Okay. Story poetry primarily comes from the campfire. So I always say, welcome to the campfire. Here we are, right here at the campfire. So, and I've been doing this now. My wife figured it out. 61 years I've been doing this. Scary, isn't it? I don't look a day over 25, right? A day over 25. But I grew up on Longfellow and Edgar Allan Poe and Wordsworth and that sort of stuff, being a kid from New England. And so poetry, rhyming poetry, was prominent in our time. I don't do any free verse poetry. I write some free verse poetry, but I don't really do free verse poetry because I don't consider it cowboy poetry. It's good, there's nothing wrong with free verse poetry, no, but it should rhyme. It's like a good spur, so it wants to click and rhyme. And so, I don't know, what do you guys want to do? You want to laugh or cry? Laugh? Okay, I'll make you laugh. All right. Here's a story. I like telling this story just for the heck of it. Cowboy poetry is story poetry. Okay, it's got a beginning and a middle and an end. All right, whereas free verse poetry has a beginning and a middle and it has no end. Okay, and that's okay. That's what it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be. But I have a friend, John Doffelmeyer. He does a lot of free verse poetry at these things. And I always, if I'm emceeing, I always tell John, I said, do me a favor. He says, what's that? I said, put your hat on the stage when you're through, so people will know when to applaud. Think about it. All right, I'll tell you a story. Every time I come to Genoa, I kind of think of this story anyway. So it's, the story concerns a Finkeltown. You know what a Finkeltown is? Oh, well, I'll tell you, that's my job. A Finkeltown is one of those towns when you're 500 miles from somewhere and you're still 200 miles from nowhere, and you're 5 cans shy of a 6-pack, and you're down to your last bag of potato chips, and a sign comes up and says, welcome to whatever. And you say, you know, I think and the sign says, thank you for visiting whatever. Some of the trouble you can get into in a Finkeltown. This is called the Fabulous Fun Float Trip. Okay, now these two old boys was coming into town, each from the opposite side. When out along the highway, at each end of town, a huge old billboard they spied. Now the billboard said in letters bright red, about 7.5 feet high, fabulous fun float trips. Nasty Jack's Cafe, please inquire inside. Now this one old puncher from the Matador brand, by the name of Sam McLeod, says, well, that's the way they talk in West Texas, guys. I've always had a hankering to do one of them trips. Reckon I'll try it now. And just about then, out on the other end, this old packer named Dan says, well, you know, I ain't done one of them trips in a while. Reckon I'll stop, see if I can. Now, folks, these two old boys had sure been around. There weren't much that they couldn't do. Now, old Sam, he wouldn't say it, because it ain't the cowboy way. But he's a heck of a buckaroo. You ask any cow boss from Tulsa to Butte, and they'll all tell you for true, that Sam McLeod, he can ride anything with hair. Yes, sir, there's a cowpuncher can do. And Packer Dan, whoo, he's a heck of a hand. He'd pack loads where angels wouldn't go. But folks, if the truth be known, underneath them Stetsons, their gray cells worked a mite slow. Now Sam looks ahead and the faded sign says, Nasty Jack's Cafe. So he pulls on in and goes up the stairs to see what they got to say. Well, he walks inside and the place is a dive. There ain't much to see or do. There's just a one-legged guy with a mean knife scar polishing one brown shoe. Just let that sit for a minute. So Sam says to the gent who looks meaner than sin, well, I've come to inquire within about these fabulous fun float trips of yours. How much do they cost? And where do they go? And just when might a feller begin? Well, the monoped points to a door in the back and he says with a toothless smile, you get out to the back and see Nasty Jack. He'll be back in a little while. So out to the back to see Nasty Jack, Sam goes like the fella says when out of the willows comes a hand like Godzilla's and smacks him upside of the head. And next comes a crack from a baseball bat. Sam figures he's about dead, and then the stars come out in the middle of the day and they dance all around in flight. But the most amazing thing that old Sam saw just before day turned to night was a boot sole that looked about 7 foot long and had cat's paw half soled thereupon, some little tiny nails, a couple of clumps of dirt, boom! Sam figured something was wrong. Now when Sam come to, it was a shocking surprise. For he was cut and battered and bruised, and his money's all gone, and he is stark buck naked from his hairline down to his shoes. His money's all gone, his Stetson hat, his NFR buckle too. and he is dallied to a log and floating down the river like a runaway Indian canoe. Well, from there on his back, Sam could see the sky. It sure was a pretty blue. But when that log hit the rapids and the white water boiled, Sam figured his days were all through. Now Sam and his log went for a hell of a ride over sandbars and waterfalls, and just when he thought he was fish food for sure, the log slowed to a nice quiet crawl. And in a quiet pool, so calm and still, Sam and his log floated round like a cork on the sea of life, around and around and around. Now meanwhile, back at Nasty Jack's Cafe, old Packer Dan was heading out back, and like Sam before, we know what's in store for our packer all tied and bound, but a lesser man might have given and quit, just might have sucked in some water and drowned. But Dan was a fighter. Oh, they were reading this old mule skinner wrong. Why, he could dive in a grizzly, swim the ocean, skin a deer with a come-along. So down the river floats Packer Dan, adrift on his knotty pine log, and after a while, he spots old Sam, tied up like a Christmas hog. Okay, so now the boys is floating at opposite ends of this quiet little lagoon. And if the current holds and the wind is right, they'll come together soon. And sure enough, when there's about 5 feet apart, old Sam, through battered and swollen lips, raised up his head and said, "Say, pard, do they serve lunch on these trips?" And Packer Dan, he can't believe the question that comes to his ear. And he sat up and heard back and he said, "Well, they didn't serve no gall-darn lunch when I took this trip last year." Some of the trouble you can get into in a Tinkletown. You be careful. You be careful about that. Well, I've been very fortunate to make my living as a cowboy. Behind every successful cowboy entertainer, there's a wife at home with a good paying job. Yeah, it's cowboy's a pretty interesting profession. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I was coming back from Bishop here just a couple of days ago. And, well, I tell you, California and Nevada right now is just pristine. I mean, it's just so beautiful. After this little rain we just had, and everything is just greener than a squash frog on a pool table. And it just, maybe that's probably not the right analogy. But, the mustard fields are all blooming and everything. It's just awesome. Especially Bridgeport, come to the Bridgeport Valley, and it's, oh man, I tell you, if you go through there and you don't know that there's a God, then you're in trouble, real trouble, because God don't make no junk. But I had the great pleasure many summers ago working for the Cashbaugh Ranch down in Mammoth, Bishop. The Cashbaugh family's been in the valley since about 1867. They were one of the first cattle people in there, along with the Rickey family and that sort of stuff. So long traditions. And they have a ranch up in Mammoth called the Hot Creek Ranch. And right about now, we're starting to bring cattle in. They winter over in Chowchilla, and now we're starting to bring them all in. And so they were just throwing the first pairs out there, and because the weather's been so good, but the grass was beautiful and tall. And it's a great place to work. And I got in there as a button. I didn't know squat about cowboy, and I've been around horses most of my adult life, but cowboy is a whole, it's a different profession. It's a profession that's learned, okay? And anybody here ever worked legitimately on a cattle ranch, drawn a paycheck as a cowboy here? I have. And so it's interesting work, and it's the romance of the West kind of goes out the window when some cow that you're trying to doctor her calf has got you pinned up against the cattle, against the barnyard fence pounding the hell out of you. But other than that, so but the Cashbaugh family, a couple of good guys, Gary Giacomini and Tom Wilson and a few other guys took me under their wing. All those. I came to the cowboy profession late, so chronologically I probably belonged with the 10 and 12-year-olds. But I was hired once on a ranch as a bad example. Everybody has a purpose, right? But anyway, I'll give you an idea of the day in the life of a kind of a high country cowboy. This is called Cash Ball of Summer. So where's the logic? I don't really know. Why is it that you bust your butt from year to year and don't have much to show? Well, maybe it's the smell of the morning as you lift that grain bin lid and the rattle and scrape of that old coffee can. It's been in there since you were a kid. Seeing your saddles and bridles waiting, cats in the rafters scratching their back, and the way that the dust from your footsteps gives shape to the sunlight that filters in through the cracks. Hey, whistle them up, Tom. Maybe they'll come in. But you know you'll have to wrangle. And that's okay, it's part of the deal. Something that's easy to handle. You don't have to go far today, just to the creek fence, and now they see you, and here they come, some at a run. And your mind goes back to another era. An easy catch on the gray. At least the day is not starting in a riot. Brush and curry and check feet and tail. First light. Familiar. Friendly. Quiet. Something spooks the ducks on the creek and they're off in a rush upstream and you watch and file it away. It just fits nicely into the scene. And the bay, she's watching you, paw on the ground. Not hard, but just to let you know that when you're through fooling around, she'll be ready to go. You catch up the reins and watch her set of the bit, boot to stirrup, straight up and leg over, and sit with a respect for her back. And your granddad said, sit up, square your shoulders. Let's go, girl. Coyote sets up and runs in morning electricity in your reins, like 1,000 other suns. Squeak of the leather and the ring of the rowel, and your bridle chains blink in the sun, and you sit up straight and you move her from walk to jog to run. Gather her in and settle her down. Cinches and latigos pulled up tight. Shake out a loop and feel the twist. Make sure she coils just right. Jake, where are you going? Should have left that puppy home today. He's got more energy than sense, and he's just gonna get in the way. You ride to the herd that you brought in yesterday, checking for whatever might be. Pink eye, foot rot, screw worm, pneumonia. So many things for the eye to see. Patches and glue and needles and antiseptic, sulfur pills, pill gun and dope. Trying to finish what your granddad started with patience, tradition, and hope. A little roping, a little vetting, pulling an old cow from the creek, counting dry cows and steers and heifers. Mark it all in your book for the week. You stop for a minute, survey the scene. Mountains rising to the noon, cattle and water and tall clover grass. If you live forever, you'll leave it too soon. Let's go, boys, call your ropes. Tomorrow we'll get what we missed. And back to the home ranch, tired and slow. Pretty good day at the office. So where's the logic? I still don't really know. It's something too hard to figure. But one thing's for sure, no matter how it goes, these cowboys are here forever. Woo! Cash Ball Summer. Pretty good. If you come out of Mammoth and coming out of Mammoth towards Bishop, and you can see Crawley Lake off to your left there. On the far back side of Crawley Lake is the Hot Creek Ranch back in there. You take a little turn off and go on a dirt road and find them. Somebody will be out there working. That little coffee can's still in the grain bin there. I hope. And it's really kind of fun because all the guys who have worked there over the years kind of have initialed the rafters in that old tack room in there. So it's kind of, and there's some of those going back to 1899 and places like that. So it's a pretty cool place. Well, who Hollywood gave us the West that never was. Okay, I'm a huge fan of all the cowboy movies. I grew up with Hoppy and Roy and Gene and all that stuff, but you never, why? Because the cowboy life is, a minute and a half of stark raving terror, and the rest of it's just boring. What is a cowboy's job if you really pin it down? What is a cowboy's job? What's a cowboy do? What does a cowboy do? What's a cowboy's job? No, that's not the job. Huh? No, you won't get it. We watch cows eat. And when they're through eating one place, we move them somewhere. We don't follow them, we move them somewhere else where they can eat some more. And eventually they'll eat enough where we can kill them and eat them. Okay? And that's the cycle, Yeah, it's pretty boring. I mean, if you made a cowboy movie, about cowboys sitting there watching a cow eat for 6 hours, Andy Warhol may do that, but it doesn't, the excitement. But that 1.5 minutes of stark raving terror make a darn good movie. And that's what they kind of grabbed onto. But in the cowboydom, there's hierarchies like anything else. Who would be the most, I got you thinking now, who would be the absolute most important person on a cattle ranch or on a cattle drive? You got it, all right, good crowd here. I didn't know what's going on. The cook. The army still marches on its stomach, So, 2 questions that are always asked to any cowboy going to work on any ranch. First one is, how's the food? And if the guy's, you're moving. Second question is, how are the horses? So. Food's great, you can put up with marginal horses, okay? But if the food's no good, even if they got the best horses in the world, it don't make any difference. You're moving down the road. You gotta find, never trust the skinny cook. There has been more cowboy poetry probably written about that camp cook than any other single one. This is one that was written by the world famous cowboy poet Anonymous. His brother wrote terrific stuff. His brother's name was Unknown. And there cowboys wrote poetry, and I wish, sometimes Jesse Smith gave me this poem years ago, and he said, I don't know, I've researched it and can't find it. I know where it comes from just because they're vernacular in the poem, but that's my job also, is if I can give authorship to some great poem, because it is a great poem. And I'm going to set this up with a little song for you. Have I got time to do that? Yeah, okay. Here's an old Utah Phillips. So anybody, Utah Phillips fan? Yeah, there we go. Columbia, great place. Too old to wrangle or ride on the swing, so you beat the triangle and you curse everything. And if dirt was a kingdom, then you'd be a king on the goodnight trail, on the loving trail. Our old woman's lonesome tonight, and your French harp it moans like a low-ballin' calf. And it's a wonder the wind don't tear off your skin. Get in there and blow out the light with your snake oil and herbs and your liniment too. You can do anything any doctor can do, except find a cure for yesterday's stew. On the goodnight trail, on the loving trail, our old woman's lonesome tonight. You wouldn't call him that to his face. Your French harp it moans like a low-ballin' calf. And it's a wonder the wind don't tear off your skin. Get in there and blow out the light. That's him over there by the wagon. That bald-headed, mean-looking cuss. See, the one with the sugar sack tied around his belly. See, now there he's looking at us. Have you ever, in all of your ramblings, seen such a poisonous look? I swear he's so mean one day he'll just up and bite himself. But pard, that old bugger can cook. But he don't stay long on any outfit. He's liable to just up and quit. Like when that Circle F rep brought a bottle out from town and he didn't get some of it. And he'll quit if you try to hurrah him because he's touchy and he's jealous as sin. But I seen him roll out and cook a hot meal when a cowboy was late coming in. Yeah, they don't make them like him anymore. Kind of cross between an angel and a skunk. And I'd rather do time in a Mexican jail than get around him when he gets drunk. But he sure can make those biscuits. Oh, and his blackberry cobbler, it's a dream. And there ain't no other cook on this sheep stinking range that can match him in handling a team. But he ain't got no sweet disposition. Just about everything makes him sore. But I've seen him pull camp with 4 knot-headed broncs that ain't never worn harness before. And the hell of it was is that he made it. And the horses ain't showing much grief. And by the time the first cowboy rides into camp, well, he's there with hot coffee and beef. From Billings up to Montana, from Malta and back, there ain't no one can match his marrow gut mulligan stew, his biscuits and pies, and his son of a gun in a sack. So, when the boss went up to Chinook and he found them there dead drunk and broke, well, we just hauled him on back. Because we were still in need of a cook. But if you don't throw your plate in the roundup, or the cabby should muddy the water, whew, man, you can hear him pound the growl and roar. And you'll roar if you trip on a guide wire, complain if the stove would have stamped, but there ain't no cook from here to the Pecos can match him in setting up camp. He just wrapped them reins around the brake bar and go to unleashing that stove, and he's got her set up and smoking before the last tent peg is drove. And then he's throwing a roast in that old Dutch oven, and by the time the Wrangler kid gets through stretching that fly, he's back at the box with his hands in the flour, making up biscuits and pies. But if the cabby should muddy the water, or that Wrangler kid slow getting wood, man, you can hear him cussing all the way out to the herd. And let me tell you, that old timer's good. And when the jigger boss hollers, "Turn loose the roadier," and the boys head for camp on the fly, there'll be a roast beef that'll melt in your mouth, and plenty of biscuits and hot apple pie. But he gets drunk every time we're shipping. And he stays that way, dang his soul, and us boys have got to wrangle fodder for ourselves until the wagon's ready to roll. And it's hell trying to get him sober. I'll tell you this for a fact. He ain't never sober, and he's mean as a bear till he's drunk up all the lemon extract. But he'll pull camp when it's mud to the axles. And he'll pitch a tent in a storm, and he'll boil up some coffee, and he'll move things around so the boys can get in and get warm. And he's never needed a pilot because he knows this whole range like a book. So he'll work when he wants to, quit, get drunk. But pard, that old bugger can cook. And I know someday that I'll be just the same, wearing an apron instead of a name. And no one can change it, no one's to blame. On the goodnight trail, on the loving trail, our old woman's lonesome tonight, and your French harp moans like a low-balling calf. And it's a wonder the wind don't tear off your skin. Get in there and blow out the light. Thank you. I hope you all have tickets to the show tonight. We're going to rock the house. I'll tell you, it's Richard and Steve will be on, myself and Lacey J and the Dalton gang. And don't move. Come up to the edge of your seat because you're only going to use that end of it. And Richard J got my good friend back there, SourDough Slim. So Get ready, grab on, put your seatbelt on. Thank you folks very much.
Thanks, Larry. Always does a great job. Well, get ready is right. Our next performer was ranch raised and started playing the steel guitar at the age of 6. He's especially well versed in music from the 1920s and 30s, and you don't find that everywhere. He's a big fan of artists like Jimmy Rogers and Bob Wills. You might find him at the Lovelock Nut Feed or the Seattle Moisture Festival. But if you look carefully, you're also going to find out that he's played at Carnegie Hall, the Lincoln Center, and the Kennedy Center. From somewhere near paradise, please welcome the last of the vaudeville cowboys, Mr. SourDough Slim.
And you can bet your boots we're gonna have some fun. So ride that bronco bunkaroo. You know it's either him or you. And though the pay is small, you'll be riding tall if you can hang on to him bunkaroo. On ride that bronco bunkaroo. Oodle-dee, howdy-dee, oodle-dee, oodle-dee. On the open range, it's a cowboy's life you'll see. Way out west where the wind blows wild and free, where he plies his quirt to a bucking brute ain't never been tamed before. A regular sun fishing crow hopping out along. So ride that bronco bunkaroo and do the best that you can do. And if you have a wreck, climb back aboard, for the bronco you can't bust, never has been born. So ride that bronco bunkaroo. You know it's either him or you. And though the pay is small, you'll be riding tall if you can hang on to him bunkaroo. On ride that bronco bunkaroo. Oodle-dee, oodle-dee, howdy-dee, oodle-dee. Very much, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cowboy cultural enthusiasts, supporters of the 6th annual Genoa Cowboy Festival. Glad to see you here on a lovely Friday afternoon. I am very excited to be here myself, and I appreciate your warm reception because, to be honest with you, it's not that easy trying to make a go of it in this day and age as an accordion-playing, yodeling cowboy. In fact, I hate to bring it up, but to tell you the truth, this accordion has been into the pawnbrokers so many times, he can play the thing better than I can. I'm taking lessons from him. Sure. I'm not kidding. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm kind of known for my fancy cowboy yodeling, and I know that we have some yodeling enthusiasts in town. Am I right? Yeah. All right. That's what they want. They paid the big bucks to get in, now they're going to get it. Here's one entitled, Take My Boots Off When I Die. Shot my way through the gold fields and the towns of Sandball Key. The ladies' hearts are broken, the banks are broken too. But now I've gone and changed my ways, my outlaw days are through. So take my boots off when I die. Take my boots off when I die. When they hand me down my wings, won't need them heavy things. I'll take my boots off when I die. I shot a guy in Reno for beating on his wife. The judge, he took a look at me and said, I'll give you life. Well, they found out the guy I killed was a wanted killer too. Instead of life, I got his wife and I got the bounty too. So take my boots off when I die. Take my boots off when I die. When they hand me down my wings, I don't need them heavy things. I'll take my boots off when I die. Sat in a poker game to play the gold up hand with two gunsmith, one-eyed buck and killer Dapper Dan. Each time I called, they pulled their guns. I heard the angels sing. I threw my aces in, said I haven't got a thing. So take my boots off when I die. Take my boots off when I die. When they hand me down my wings, I don't need them heavy things. I'll take my boots off when I die. You-da-da-dee, you-da-dee, hi-da-dee. Women and children first. Hold on. Where are we? And the lights went out. That's good. That was a nice touch. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, why not go wild? Huh? Probably the best yodeling you'll ever hear right there. In this price range. That's what I meant to say, of course. I don't want to get too big-headed about it. We got a lot of great yodelers here at the festival this year. Hi, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Thank you. Thank you. What show is this anyway? I love to yodel. I love yodeling. Yodeling is, well, it's fun. It feels good to yodel. Anybody know where yodeling originated? Where did it all start? It wasn't the Cowboys. Switzerland. You're right, Scott. It started in Switzerland. High up in the Alps. Many, many years ago, way up high. It was a mountain climbing accident. Maybe not. Anyway. Right now, time to go back to Houston, Texas, 1937. Shelley Lee Alley and his Alley Cats. One entitled Women, Women, Women. Lordy, how I love the women. I love them long and tall. I love the slim ones, the medium and big ones, Lordy, how I love them all. I used to always hate the women. I used to always hate them all. Until I met a gal they called Blondie. That was when I began to fall. trust another woman. I want them all to know that take all your love and your money, then they will let you go. These mean, deceitful women have always been my downfall. From now on, I keep my eyes wide open, but I'll always love them all. What a way to end it all. Went from bad to worse right there. Women trouble. I don't worry about it myself. I'm a lucky guy. I'm very fortunate, actually. My wife is as true blue as they come. She is a real sweetheart. I'm very fortunate. Thank you. Thank you, yes. I haven't spoken to her in 2 weeks. I didn't want to interrupt her. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, she really is. She's not like that at all. She's a sweetheart. In fact, we celebrated our wedding anniversary here a couple of weeks ago. I didn't know what to get her. You know, you fellas know what I'm talking about. Wedding anniversary comes up, you want to do something special, don't you? Of course you do. Oh, absolutely. Big time. Something maybe hearkening back to your honeymoon. Finally, I came up with a great idea. See if you ladies don't think this isn't a great idea. I decided I would write her out a personalized gift certificate. Oh yeah, I did too. I remember exactly what it said. It said, this gift certificate is worth 30 minutes of great lovin' any way you want it. Huh? Isn't that sweet? Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. 10 minutes extra with the accordion. Oh man. Oh boy, as you can imagine, when she opened that up, she was ecstatic. She gave me a big kiss on the forehead, and as she was heading out the front door, I heard her yell back, "See you in 30 minutes." I tell you what really bummed me out. I tell you what really got me. She took the accordion with her. That hurt. No, that hurt me bad. I'm still reeling from that. That hurt me very bad. Yeah, if I ever get over that. Okay, well, here's one I wrote about a fella that doesn't really get the recognition that he always deserves. The old chuck wagon cook. Out west, in a cow camp, there's a fella once was a top hand. Now his punching days are over. He cooks for the hands and the drovers while he's a baking and a boiling, washing dishes and a toiling. He's a singing out this ditty in a voice that's all gravel and gritty. Oh, the chuck wagon waltz, the chuck wagon waltz. He wrestles the pots in time with the chorus. The chuck wagon waltz, the chuck wagon waltz. When he's singing the chuck wagon waltz. Cattle are a-lowing to the rhythm of his poem while he's singing sourdough biscuits. Little do they know he's fixing beef brisket. Back at camp, the cowhands is a-waiting for the brisket the camp cook he's making, while their innards is a-growling. In time with that tune he's a-howling. Oh, the chuck wagon waltz, the chuck wagon waltz. He wrestles the pots in time with the chorus. That chuck wagon waltz, the chuck wagon waltz. When he's singing the chuck wagon waltz. Ah-da-dee-da-dee, oh-da-dee-da-doo, ah-da-dee-dee, oh-da-dee, 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 ah-da-dee-dee-da-doo. Cook there. Well, why not? Well, time to switch around a little bit. You know, this accordion gets a little heavy on my chest, especially at my age, 47. And I know I don't look it. Now, that's what all the ladies tell me. Yeah, oh, yeah. You don't look it. Anyway, let's switch around here. Oh, that thing is heavy, too. Lighten the load up. Lighten it up. Stay there. Don't go anywhere, please. Don't move. I had one bounce off stage the other day, and I'm a little paranoid of the whole thing. There, I think. Right there. There it is. Lighten it up a little bit. Boy, it's a catastrophe on stage. I'm going to lighten it up with the little harmonica. Yeah, I was doing some research recently. I found out the harmonica was the most popular instrument with the old-time cowboys back in the heyday of the big trail drives. Makes sense, doesn't it? Easy to pack around. Bring it out after supper. Toot a few tunes out around the campfire, drive everybody nuts. There's nothing to that. Anybody can do that. Thank you. Anyone could do that. Of course, when I reach the age of 50, it may be a little more difficult. Here's one I wrote, kind of a sentimental tune about longing for the West. If you've ever not been in the West and want it. I knew that wasn't right. Embarrassing. That would have happened in Sparks, I wouldn't care. Here in Genoa with all these respectable cultural enthusiasts. Anyway, here it is, A Longing for the West. How are we doing there? We got some guitar? All right. I've spent some time away now from my old home way out west. Now there's something stirring deep within my soul. I can hear that far off wail. Guess it's time to hit that trail. Western skies are calling home. Out yonder across that great divide, on my pony I want to ride. There'll be no more hesitating, prairie moons are waiting. No, western skies are calling me home. Western skies are calling me home. So the bid farewell and I say so long. In my heart there's a yearning to be returned and the western skies are calling me home. When daylight comes a-creeping across that sagebrush-covered land, I'll be sitting round the campfire, glad to be back home again. I can smell the bacon frying in the pan as I drink my coffee from a can. There's a blue sky up above, country that I love. Oh, western skies are calling me home. Western skies are calling me home. So to bid farewell and I say so long. In my heart there's a yearning to be returned, and oh, western skies are calling me home. Western skies are calling me home. Western skies are calling me home.
Kind of sentimental, isn't it? You know, I'm kind of sentimental myself. You wouldn't know it by looking at me. In fact, I'm an emotional wreck. Sure. In fact, I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I thought maybe I should do something to correct the whole situation. I've actually gone to the extent of going out and buying some of those motivational CDs and self-help books over the last few months. I'm not sure it's done any good. My wife, 100% behind me, of course, she went out actually last week and got a brand new series out on CD entitled How to Handle Disappointment. Now, wasn't that nice of her? I opened up the box, it was empty. Let me look at the timepiece. I get up here, I'm having so much fun, as you know, as you can see. Before I know it, time to get off. It goes by quickly. I've got time for about 25 more. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I had it upside down. No, I don't go on for an hour. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. I got time for one more here. I'm going to go out the only respectable way any yodeling cowboy of any stature would go out. That's with a big yodeling barn burner. What do you say, huh, folks? Yeah. That'll liven up the afternoon. I might mention, too, I do have some recordings available back there. I have a brand new CD out. It's the Best of Sourdough Slim Volume 2, 27 big hits. Stop by and see me back there. Pick up a schedule, sign up on the mailing list. That's where the activity will be at after the show. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this one. One that I wrote about a fella that lives up in my neck of the woods, up in the Feather River Canyon up there. At least he did for many years. He's gone now. His name was Bill. Anybody know him? I guess not. But he was quite a yodeler in his own right. In fact, he got the moniker of Yodelin' Bill. And so I wrote a song to pay tribute to the man. Here it is, the Ballad of Yodelin' Bill. Sierras lived a mountaineer. Listen to my story, won't you lend an ear? He had the sweetest yodel the canyons he did fill. He became a legend, his name was Yodelin' Bill. He became a legend.
he had a herd of cows, but he kept his pride and joy in the shed behind the house. It was a real rich snorting, gurgling whiskey still. You ever heard Billy Yodel when he did his fill? And you love yodeling Bill. You heard Bill Yodel when he did his fill. Now when he had a hankering up and paint the town, what a hunk of man he was, listen to that sound. Drove the ladies crazy with his magic trill. When old Bill would yodel, they'd really get a thrill. Would you when old Bill would yodel, they'd really get a thrill. Little kids, they followed him, gathered at his feet, hoping that old Bill would give them all a yodeling treat. Candy canes and sugar plums, the little Jack and Jill couldn't hold a candle to him from old Bill. Oh, yodeling Bill, they couldn't hold a candle to a yodel from old Bill. Bill lived a long and happy life, his yodel served him well, but at the age of 99, death finally rang his knell. As old Bill was heading over that great divide, he let out a yodel when he reached the other side. Oh, do you love yodeling Bill? He let out a yodel when he reached the other side. Oh, the yodel. Thank you, folks. You're wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Have a great festival, huh? See you later.